Hey everybody, my name is Steven and welcome back to the Storytime channel. Without wasting any time, let's get into our stories of the day. Arrogance plus apathy equals chemical spill. As an X-ray tech student in the US Army in the mid-80s, we had to do several weeks of OJT, on-the-job training, after finishing our school training, and I was assigned to a hospital in El Paso, Texas. Normally, we were assigned to work in a different area each week. I especially enjoyed fluoroscopy and special procedures week. I don't remember what rotation I was assigned at the time, but was surprised when the student leader told me I was going to spend the day cleaning film processors. It didn't bother me as I had seen it demonstrated in the school, but had never done it before. I was told to find SP4 Slacker for directions. I call him Slacker because that was his personality, not his name. While I was temporarily assigned to this hospital as a student, Slacker was permanent and considered part of the staff of X-ray techs. I found him taking a nap in an unused X-ray room. After rousing him, he walked me through cleaning the first processor before giving me the list of other processors and then returning to his nap with instruction to wake him when I was done. It wasn't a difficult task. Each processor had 2 tanks of chemicals, one for developer and the other for fixer. I had to drain these tanks and then clean and rinse the tanks and rollers before putting the rollers back in place and refilling the tanks with fresh chemicals. Each room with a processor also had a large floor drain for the chemicals, so it was a simple matter of placing the drain hoses into the drain opening and releasing a valve. As I was finishing my third processor, the NCOIC, non-commissioned officer in charge, stopped by and got my attention by stiffly commanding, "Private, come with me." He walked me down the hall to the chest room, which had its own dedicated film processor. He told me to do this one next and to use the new floor drains. He pointed out the gleaming new porcelain drain that was sunk into the floor a foot away from the old metal one. Now, I was standing nearly on top of the drains while he was still by the open door of the room several meters away. I looked down and saw that the new drain was not connected to any pipes. I knew because I could see someone's desk through the bottom of the drains. I quickly tried to explain, "Sergeant, I don't think it's ready for..." He sternly cut me off. "Private, I said use the drain. The contractor reported to me that it's finished and ready for use. No arguments." I wasn't unaccustomed to being ordered around. As a private, nearly everyone outranks you. Nevertheless, I tried once again to explain. "But Sergeant, I can see..." He cut me off again with a surly, "Just do what you're told, Private," and walked away shaking his head. Now, you can see where this is going. I always try to be a good soldier, but at the moment I could see that this sergeant was in greater need of an education than me. Nevertheless, I tried to find a better course of action. Buying myself time to think, I did everything I could to forestall using the drain. I cleaned the racks and even the outer panels of the processor while Specialist Slacker popped his head into the door and snarked, "What's taking so long?" Finally, I had the chance to form an alliance with this person they'd placed between me and the boss. I quickly tried to explain, but Slacker cut me off. "Just hurry up, I want to get to lunch." Then he walked out before I could reply. I actually had one more processor to clean, so I went and did that one, leaving the chest room processor in disarray. I was surprised nobody bothered me about it, but inevitably I had to return to the chest room. I placed both drain hoses into the new drain, peeking through to make sure nobody was currently sitting at the desk. I did yell into the drain, "Stand back, chemicals coming through," before I opened the valves and stood by, waiting for the storm. About 2 minutes later, I heard the thunder coming down the hall. The non-commissioned officer in charge, followed by a handful of other staff, was shouting, "Shut it down, Private! Shut off the valve now!" I heard this before they were even halfway down the hall, so I quickly shut both valves and stood as they stormed into the room. I held up my hands and simply said, "It's off now." The non-commissioned officer in charge already knew what happened. He looked ready to beat on me, but didn't. He didn't demand an explanation, but he didn't have to. His staff quickly asked for one, and I told them how I tried to tell the officer about the drain not being connected, but that he cut me off and ordered me to use it. Several of them glanced at their boss, and the truth was self-evident by his expression. Then they asked why I didn't tell anyone else, so I explained trying to tell Slacker about it and how he blew me off as well. They asked where Slacker was, so I told them where I'd last seen him. One of the sergeants quickly retrieved Slacker and explained he was found napping in the X-ray exam room. That was the moment that SP4 Slacker took the brunt of the blame for this incident. I was completely off the hook, and I believe the officer in charge did indeed learn his lesson as well. The rest of my student experience wasn't impacted at all by this incident, although I almost got in trouble for doing an unauthorized spinal tap on a patient. But that's a whole different story that had nothing to do with this incident. Oh man, so here you are, trying to clean the processor, and you can visibly see the desk below this drain. Both the officer in charge and the slacker blew you off. You have strict orders to follow through. What do? Let me know in the comment section down below. Younger brother made me delete Minecraft, then instantly regrets it. This happened to me a few years ago. I was around 10 and my younger brother was 6. I had just come home from school and decided to download a Minecraft APK. I had the APK installed on both my phone and tablet. My younger brother loved this game, and when I told him I had the game, he would play non-stop. My mother doesn't like Minecraft, I don't know why, so I told him to keep it a secret. A couple of days later, I was studying for a test on my tablet, then my brother wanted to play Minecraft. I told him no, I was studying. He didn't like that answer, so he told my mom, and of course, she told me to delete it. My younger brother had a smug look on his face. Here comes the malicious compliance. I deleted the app with a smile on my face because, as I said earlier, my younger brother loved that game. The next day, he told me he wanted to play Minecraft, but I told him I don't have Minecraft anymore. He asked me why I deleted it, so I said in the most childish voice, "Ma, big sis says Minecraft, tell her to delete it." His face turned red and began to throw a tantrum. This will definitely be a learning lesson for that younger brother. At 6 years old, they make some mistakes like that. They don't realize the consequences of their actions, and hopefully they got over their tantrum and they'll be able to just actually learn from it. My friend is a manager for Costco at the membership and returns counter. Costco has a pretty relaxed return policy, so 99% of the time, customers bring things in to return or exchange. My friend says it's no questions asked. But if on the computer system, he notices in someone's transaction history that they're abusing the system, he'll deny the return and offer a pretty clear explanation as to why. Honestly, most people don't raise a big stink. The evidence is pretty clear and they say, "Okay, I didn't know that's how it worked," and go on with their lives. But last week, a customer was getting upset that my friend wasn't going to do a return, even though there was a long list of transactions that made it pretty obvious this guy was routinely buying things, using them a few times as needed, and then returning them. In this case, he had bought a bunch of food and was trying to return the packaging for full returns. He's not backing down. My friend has full authority to cancel a membership, and this comes with a refund most of the time. So he tells the guy, "Sir, it doesn't seem like you're happy with our products and services. I'm going to go ahead and cancel your membership and give you a full refund of the annual fee." The guy, immediately understanding that this means he won't be allowed back in a Costco, sits kind of stunned for a few seconds, then gets real panicky. Like, no, I'm good, please don't do that." My friend isn't backing down, so the guy asks to speak to a manager. Friend plays the whole "I am the manager of this department," so the guy escalates. The assistant warehouse manager comes over and looks at the transaction history and immediately sides with my friend, saying virtually the same thing but in super sing-songy, "We're so sorry you haven't been happy with the products we sell," and backs my friend up while he finishes canceling the guy's membership. It's one thing to try to game the system, it's another to get called out on it and continue to try and push and demand that you deserve even more. I got an A in a class because of my professor mistake. Background: during my very first semester in college, I took a physics class from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. It was an awful experience mainly due to my professor. I'll call her Professor D for this. Professor D was the typical grumpy old instructor who refused to use any technology. Examples: projectors, PowerPoints, etc. It was like if Squidward was teaching physics, so the class was very boring. And when Professor D would answer questions, it would be with attitude for some reason, as if we were supposed to know certain things already. Now, every time she would pass back labs and tests, Professor D would make a dramatic announcement about how she would not fix grades unless we proved that it was her mistake when grading and how she didn't want to hear sob stories and stuff. I didn't learn anything really, so I failed every single test I took in that class and my labs were okay at best. One day I got my printed out grade report and realized I had a cumulative percentage of 92%. And I was confused until I got back one of my labs, which had got a 16.5 out of 20, but on the gradebook I guess she forgot to type in the decimal. So I had a 165 out of 20. Labs were worth a bit less than tests, but still a good chunk of our grade. I didn't tell Professor D because it was my responsibility to tell her about mistakes. I'm pretty sure I failed the final as well, but still got an A. Some people might judge morals on a situation like this, but if I was OP, I would take any freebie from the heavens like this situation presented. Smart butt teenager. Throughout my teenage years, I worked a weekend job that started at 7 a.m. One of the mornings that I overslept had really crappy weather. The wet snow had been accumulating and had turned to 4 to 6 inches of slush on the road. Michigan. Being the 16 to 17-year-old driver that I was, I thought going 5 under the speed limit was slow and careful. Very close to making it to work on time, I lost control. Small Honda with a hatchback. Hit an embankment and the vehicle rolled onto its roof. I didn't hit the embankment head on and I was really surprised that it rolled. Nevertheless, it was a very serious accident. After speaking with my boss and the police, didn't receive a ticket, my nerves had calmed and I was ready to deal with my parents. I was really wanting the whole thing to be over with. Almost an hour later, I was sitting in the passenger seat of another vehicle when the EMT came running up. Out of breath and taking her job very seriously, she inquired about my health and if I was hurting anywhere. To which I replied very calmly that I was fine, I had no pain. She cut me off and promptly told me not to move, to let her do all the work and to pretend your neck and back are broken. I don't know why, but just as she pulled my legs to the side to turn me towards the open car door, I let out a painful yell. The EMT stopped dead with wide eyes and said, "What? What is it? Where is your pain?" I calmly looked at her and said, "Oh, I'm not really in pain. You told me to pretend my neck and back were broken." I don't remember exactly what she said under her breath, something that included smart butt teenager, but the long, quiet ride to the hospital with my head taped to that board and the lady sitting next to me was painstaking. Because I wasn't badly injured and my parents didn't kill me, like I thought they would, I can remember with great fondness my quick response and her reaction to my malicious compliance. God bless her for doing her job and all the EMTs who put up with teenagers like I was. So the EMT showed up, they told you to act like your neck and back were broken because, just in case you did have something wrong and you didn't realize it, you wouldn't harm anything acting that way because you would be stiff, and then they just start screaming when they go to adjust them playing along with it. I think it's kind of a cutesy story. But with that being said, that's all the stories we have for today, so what I want to know is which of these stories that I've read for you today are your personal favorite and why? Let me know in the comment section down below which of these stories today are your personal favorite and why. And thank you all so very much for watching and listening to the Storytime channel today. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to the Storytime channel. And don't forget to turn notifications on by hitting the notification bell so you'll never miss an upcoming video from us. Thank you all again so very much for watching and listening to the Storytime channel.